I'm going over. I don't know. What do you have, the Criterion version?
I have the Arrow one actually. So yeah, I have the Arrow one. I had both, and we're live. What's going on, guys? Uh,
Hey,
so tonight we're talking about Videodrome. But before we talk about that, did you pick anything up?
always. I saved a handful to show only to your channel, as I've been doing lately.
Nice.
Ones that are flip relevant, and you'll be proud of me. These are ones that we didn't talk about before, but um, I did not have very many of these, and we talked about them. But I believe that logo means something.
Yeah, you got some Shaw Brothers stuff. So let me see. You
All
got Black Magic,
88.
the Oily Maniac, Bewitched, Black Magic 2, and the Spiritual Boxer. Nice.
Yes, sir.
You have a few that actually the majority of those I don't have. I'm not a big fan of the Shaw stuff that's not kung fu related.
Right.
Um, just because I don't know, it feels weak. It's just not my style. It's just not my thing. But I think you might have all of them now, right?
I have 10 Shaw Brothers from 88. I think I'm missing like 8 or 9 more still.
You're almost there. I mean, I'm missing just I think those in that pile. And the Peking Man, but I'm not gonna get that because that's in the Arrow set. But
The Shaw Scope, yeah.
you should
I
watch.
know I know Hex is getting expensive.
Yes, Hex is I think Orbit has it for $60.
Yeah.
Which is just it's not worth that.
And this stack, that's actually where I got this stack. I considered
Orbit?
getting, yeah. I looked at Hex and I was like, no.
Yeah, not for that price. Hell no for that. Especially
Right.
since I think the one on Orbit doesn't have the slip, it doesn't have
Nope.
any of the extras, so it's just literally the disc in the case, and that's not worth $60 at all.
Not at all.
So, I didn't get anything this week except for this. This isn't a boutique release. Actually, let me see. Yeah, it's not a boutique release, but I got a copy of The Standoff at Sparrow Creek. Have you ever heard of this
Interesting.
movie?
No.
So this came out in I think 2018. I never heard of it. It's the first movie from a writer director. It's the first thing he ever wrote, and he sold a picture for it, which was very impressive. It's got a bunch of names that you wouldn't like necessarily like get right away, but if you saw them on screen, you're like,
Character actors.
oh, that yeah. So it's about a group of extreme alt-right, right-winged militia.
Oh, wow.
And you could tell that they're paranoid. They don't have iPhones or smartphones. They have old Nokia phones, so they can't be tracked. The main character that we follow lives in a trailer, kind of out in the woods. He doesn't have internet. He has an old, CRTV. And he has radio. Well, one night he's eating. The movie starts and he's like eating dinner, and he hears gunshots in the distance, like automatic gunfire. So he goes outside and he listens, and he gets out his radio and he hears that somebody had come to a cop's funeral and just opened fired, and there was explosions, and a lot of people are dead. So he calls everybody. They all get together at this warehouse that they're like renting out, and they're like, "Well, the cops are going to come looking for us because we are obviously the people
Right.
who are, we have the guns, we have the weapons for this." So they go into the weapons safe, which the code changes I think they say every 48 hours. No, every 48 minutes the code changes and it's texted to everybody in the room. So only people who could get into the weapons are the people that are in this scene. And when they open up the weapons case, there's a gun missing. And they're like, one of us did this. And I'm not going to spoil what happens after that because that's just the basic setup. But it's literally a single location film. It doesn't look like they used any like studio lights. It looks like they used the lights that are in that building, and it's extremely well made. It's extremely well done. I think it's brilliant. I think it's the best I think it's the best directorial debut since Bone Tomahawk. I just fell in love with it. I thought it was a great movie.
Wow.
My wife fell asleep during it, so which I kind of get. It's a very talky movie, and it's very and the writing's really good too. Like it's a very well made movie. I thought it was great. But yeah, that's the only pickup I had. I did want to talk about one thing though. I watched. What did I watch? I have to open up my diary. I don't know why they call it a diary on Letterboxd. Talk about.
Yeah.
um, I watched. I rewatched Den of Thieves. Have you seen this movie?
I don't think so. Not by the name.
Okay, so it's got 50 Cent in it. It's also got Gerard Butler. It's got O'Shea Jackson Jr., Paul Schreiber. It's got a lot of great actors in it, and it's basically Heat, but for meatheads, like for just juiced up, roided out meatheads. And I fucking loved it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's so much fucking fun. I actually went to the gym right afterwards after watching it and was super fucking like just yeah.
Blasting 5-figure death punch.
Okay, no, let's not go there. I'm not. Let's not go there, dude. Even my dad. Speaking of 5-finger death punch, it played the other day at work, and my dad goes, "What the fuck is this garbage?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, Dad! What's going on, Matt?" But yeah, this is a movie that I feel like 5-finger death punch fans would totally love. Like it is. It's good though, but it's
Right.
just like it's got a really good shootout. I've been watching like Heat like movies lately. Like I watched The Town last week, and then we watched this, and yeah, it's so weird to me that there hasn't been a good heist movie since Heat. Like a really good heist movie. I think The Town is probably the best thing we've gotten since, but man, that movie's like what 20 something years old now, 30 years old. I think it came out the year I was born.
Yeah, somewhere around
Came out
there.
in 92 or something. So, man, but yeah, that's all I've been pretty much watching. I did start 000. Have you seen that?
Don't even know what that is.
It's a Amazon exclusive. It's on Letterboxd, even though it's a show, and it's I think 7 episodes. I'm almost finished, and it's based on the same. It's based on a book by the same author who wrote Gomorrah, which I talk about that show all the time. It's a show about cocaine. So it takes place in 3 different, well, more than 3 because it takes place all over the world, but it's about this family who's the brokers. They own a like shipping and freight company, and they team up with both the Italian mafia and the Mexican drug cartel. So the Mexican cartel sells them the cocaine, they ship it to Italy, and then that's where they sell it. So it's about this it's this really small family. It's a husband, it's a dad and his 2 kids who are older who help run the company. The dad dies like first episode, and it just shows you this journey that this shipment of cocaine goes from Mexico to I think New Orleans, which is kind of funny that I'm just watching a show set in New Orleans as the hurricane's happening. And right. then it goes to Africa because some stuff happens, and it goes through it goes all the way around Africa. It goes to Italy, and it's one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And I don't understand how no one else is talking about this. It's based on real people and real events loosely, but they changed the names. So there's a group of Mexican mercenaries called the Los Zetos, and their origin story is kind of a central point, even though they don't call themselves that in the show, but it's based on their origin story. And it's just ultra violent, gruesome, very depressing, everything I like. It's super rad. Matt says he started watching Decalogue last night.
I believe, if I remember right, he gave it 5 stars even for that first one.
You did?
He did, I believe.
Did? Damn.
Yeah, I believe he loved it.
Decalogue is pretty good. It is pretty damn good. Is that Kieslowski? Christoph?
I think so, yes.
I always get him and it's going to sound really stupid, but I always get him and was it Wim Wenders?
Oh, Wim Wenders.
Yeah, I always get those 2 mixed up in my mind for some reason. Like their pretentiousness crosses past in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yeah. But besides Videodrome, what would you watch this week?
You know what's hilarious is you mentioned your wife falling asleep to that one, and it got me thinking. So I opened up my diary as well, like you did, and just since we met last Tuesday night, I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 full movies. She fell asleep to 5 of them. The only one she didn't fall asleep to is one we went to in the theaters together.
What'd you guys go see?
Candyman.
Is it good?
It is good. There is a lot of problems, but it's so good with those problems that I still gave it 4 stars, even though I came out just complaining.
Well, I don't like women, so I'm not gonna go see it. It was directed by a woman, so
Speaking of Five Finger Death Punch, yeah.
yeah. But hey, but also like, I'm not a horror fan, but congrats to her because it's the first #1 movie at the box office by a black woman,
By a
right?
black woman, yeah.
That's pretty fucking awesome. So
Yeah, overall it was great. It is really cinematically shot. The acting is superb. The story is really good. The fact that it's not even just a spiritual sequel; it is a full-on direct sequel to the original,
oh
and
really?
it literally just expands all of the mythos that we got in the '90s, and it enhances them to a point where it makes you like. I came out of it complaining about things that I thought were missing, but then going, God, they better make a second one now.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was that good.
Matt wants to know, have you ever fallen asleep in the theater?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I fell asleep. The last movie I ever saw in theaters was the last Star Wars movie, and I fell asleep for a good chunk of that. I dislike that movie. John says Candyman is great, and hello Kevin Nash, and hello Luigi Mario. What's up, guys?
Am I Kevin Nash? Even though
I'm
he's
guessing you're
literally like
Kevin Nash.
he's like 5'11".
That's a lot taller than me, though. So
I haven't been 5'11" since middle school.
I've never been that 5'11". So oh man. Oh wait, I did watch God, I'm like blanking on the actress's name, but that documentary, Christopher Walken was on a yacht in the 80s and the actress drowned.
Natalie Wood.
Yeah,
Natalie
what the
Wood.
fuck? What the fuck? Did Christopher Walken do that shit?
I don't think he did it. Isn't the assumption that the other person that was there did it?
Yeah, but he was there. I don't know. I don't know, man. But whatever. Even if he did do it, I will forgive him for King of New York. So
Kevin Nash is like 6 foot. Oh wow. I said 5'11". I'm sorry, I'm off by an inch.
I fell asleep during The Big Short and The Force Awakens. Seeing it my third time. What the fuck?
God dang.
Matt, I'm sorry, but you saw The Force Awakens 3 times?
What is the movie you've seen in theaters the most times?
Oh God. I saw The Dark Knight 13 times in theaters. I think that's the most. And I don't even like that movie particularly that much.
It's the same answer for me. I really like the movie. I think it's great, but
I think I liked it at the time, but it was
no, I still like it now. I still think it's great. But the thing at the time is I was the one in like 5 different splintered off friend groups that loved movies. And so they'd all be like, let's go to the movies. I'm like, okay, so I got to go with this group again.
Well, I think that's pretty much what, and I was the only one that could drive at the time. So it was like all different friends groups were like, hey, let's go see Dark Knight. And I was like, all right, let's go see Dark Knight. So for like, I saw it twice at the Dells with my cousins because we were at the Wisconsin Dells on vacation. Saw it twice there. And then I remember when I got back, I was like, at school, I was like, you guys got to see Dark Knight. And they were like, we like we can't drive. I'm like, let's fucking go. And yeah, I used to love that movie. I still think that trilogy is good, but man, fucking what's his name? Why can't I think of his name?
Christian Bale?
No, the fucking director.
Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan. He can't direct a fight scene to save his life.
Yeah.
It's just he just can't. But everything else is great though. Well, so guys, what was the name of the documentary you were talking about?
The Natalie Wood one.
Yeah, it's like Natalie Wood or something. Yeah, it's on HBO Go. I'm sure if you just search Natalie Wood, it'll come up. I think I saw Inception 5 times, says Matt. I have a really weird memory with Inception. I went with 2 guys who in high school didn't know, but they were extremely homophobic. They had to have a gay buffer between us while we watched Inception. And for those who don't know, it's when guys don't feel comfortable sitting next to another guy, I guess. So they put a empty seat between us. And me being Italian, I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Just sit next to me. And then at the end of the movie, they were like, "Those stupid." And I was like, yeah, you guys are just meatheads. How is there a dislike already? Well, someone got muted last night on stream for saying something, I think, super sexist. Probably Terminator 2, Jurassic Park, Spider-Man, The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Returns. Kevin Nash is 6'10".
You know what's funny? This is going to be where I lose all credibility here. I was not thinking of Kevin Nash when I responded to that. I was thinking in terms of basketball because I'm tall. And so I was thinking of Steve Nash.
Oh, man, that's hilarious.
Yep. And then I recognized the name and I went, oh, whoops.
Which, by the way, I have a bone to pick with you now that I just realized it. Last week I said, watch all the Lone Wolf and Cub movies. And you said, I don't have time to watch 6 movies in a week. And then you... and then you
listen.
Oh, man.
It is very difficult to watch a series of movies. Like, I didn't even go over what I watched this week, but it was a surprisingly me-heavy choice of movies this week. Usually it's peppered in with a lot of stuff for her as well. So, yeah.
My wife doesn't usually get to pick the movie because gotta look, make sure the door's shut and she's not coming. But my wife's taste in movies fucking sucks. Okay, it's terrible. She made me... Have I told you about the War Room movie?
I don't think so.
She was like, you pick the movies all the time. Let me pick some movies. So we watched the entire Twilight Saga, which, by the way, the last movie is actually pretty hype. I was like excited. There was heads being completely ripped off. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've heard the left too are really campy and great.
I was like, what? She then made me watch this movie called The War Room, and I was like, War Room? Okay, cool title. And it's about a woman who has a room in her house where she prays. And she teaches this other woman to pray, and the praying makes her life better. And my wife was sobbing during the movie, and I was just like, oh my fucking God. This makes me believe in God even less. Like, it was so bad. I was like, my Lord. So she doesn't get to pick the movies.
I agree with Matt here. He says, in all fairness, 6 foreign language films in a week is a lot.
What is wrong with you guys? Aren't you watching Decalogue?
You know what? None of the movies I watched this week are foreign language at all.
I don't think any of the movies I watched this week are in different language either. The Night Comes for Us. I rewatched that quite often. Yeah, that's kind of weird. That's the only Asian movie I watched this week. I watched Honest Thief. Have you seen that?
No.
With what's his name? Liam Neeson.
Oh, that's probably why. I can't stand Liam Neeson.
Dude, it's the worst movie I've seen all year.
Wait, is that the new Jackie Chan movie?
No.
Wasn't he in one with Jackie Chan recently?
He was?
I may be misremembering.
Really?
I'm probably wrong.
No, it's just he like robs banks. He robbed $9 million and they have no evidence against him. So he's just scotch-free, and then he falls in love and he's like, I gotta come clean. I want to be honest. And then he like calls the FBI. They come, and the 2 douchebags that work at the FBI steal his money. And
great.
It's a stupid movie. Just a bad movie. I gave it 1 star, and I said they should have named it Honestly Stupid Thief. Because it was Flip, I watched Memories of a Murder. How would you like that, Matt? I love that movie. Speaking of that, it's right there above me. That's a good movie. That transfer looks like shit, but that's a good movie.
So over this last week, since I never brought it up, I watched one that I thought was tailor-made for you if you've never seen it, because it's not horror, but man, is it tense. The Severin release of the movie called Siege is fantastic. There's so few people talking about Siege. It is from 1983. And did you ever see the original Assault on Precinct 13 from Carpenter?
Yes. Love that movie.
So it is something that would be a perfect double feature with that.
And you give it 4.5 stars.
Yes. Siege is legitimately, like, when I read the synopsis, I was like, oh man, this sounds like it was made for me. And I watched it and I went, oh, this was made for me. It was It was incredible. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. I'm going to be reviewing it on my channel, but dude, Siege is seriously one of the best movies Severin has ever put out.
Damn,
It is incredible.
that's not saying much.
Oh, I completely disagree.
I'm
I
just-
think
I'm
Severin
saying-
has put out a lot of incredible releases.
Oh, even John says Siege freaking ruled.
Oh yeah, Siege is
Damn,
the sleeper of the entire year for Severin so far.
Jesus. All right, well, I'm gonna have to watch it.
It was a great movie, and then there is a little snippet at the end right as the credits roll, and I went, "Oh, that's the perfect capper," and it took it from 4 to 4.5 for me easily.
Damn. Well, fuck. I'm gonna watch that. Was that in that bundle a couple months ago?
Yes, it was in. I think it was the July bundle.
I almost bought that bundle, dude. Literally, you said makes a great double billing with Assault and Precinct 13, and then someone else that I follow on Letterboxd says makes a great double bill with Assault and Precinct 13.
And if you really want to take it up a notch, I would go Assault on Precinct 13, then Siege, and then at the end of the night follow it up with a modern and watch VFW.
Is VFW any good?
Yes, it's great. It's really well acted. It is gory as hell. It's a little off the rails because the director is a little off the rails with this stuff. Like he did Bliss as well, but it's fun at least.
Damn, I'm gonna put that on my list.
Yeah.
I do want to read a text message from somebody. Speaking of Lone Wolf and Cub, this is the same. this is the same gentleman that said that his takeaway from Seven Samurai, not that it's a good movie or that it had a good meaning, had a good lesson behind it, was that all the women had fat bottoms. Like that was his. He said, "Is this where the term ghetto booty comes from?" He texted me at 2:22 today, out of the blue, tit sucking action, and I just said, "What?" And he said, "Finally watched the first Lone Wolf and Cub movie. They must have casted some island pacifier for that role because that's how he spelled it. Because Japanese titties, unless from the Chiba prefecture, do not have that big nipples like that." And I just wrote, "What the fuck? How do you know that?" And then he just texted me 2 hours later. That was a good movie. I love this guy. He's one of my best friends, but man, he is just what? Who's like, yeah, the Chiba prefecture. That's where the big nipples come from. Like, do you want to get in the video drum?
Sure.
I just want to say, there's every Cronenberg movie from that era is like strangely sexy.
Yeah. I mean, look at Rabbit and the armpit vagina.
Okay, not Rabbit. I was talking about Crash and.
But seriously, look at Rabbit, the armpit vagina. It is strangely sexual.
Okay. I mean,
then I can't show it, but I mean I can't show the entire thing, but the art on the Arrow disc, that is.
Open it up. Just show it. Fuck it. Yeah, it's just a cut. What's wrong with that?
Just a cut.
Just a cut.
I do love this art on the book, though.
Dude, when I first watched this movie for the very first time, I was completely blown away. God, it's so good. This is my second favorite Cronenberg, I think.
What's number one?
Eastern Promises.
Oh, that's right.
I really enjoy Viggo Mortensen's cock in that movie. It is just absolutely amazing. Full hog in that movie. But this, man, do you want to talk about your favorite scene? Like, do you want to, like, because this is kind of a, I feel like everyone knows Videodrome, and if you haven't, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. What's your favorite scene?
I mean, Jesus. It's probably going to be an unpopular one, but in the beginning, when he really starts to question his own reality and the way that everything is separating, is where it goes off the rails in a way that makes it so much more relatable for me. And for anybody that's never seen it, it is legitimately like this really broad and prescient display and analysis of social media before the internet was known by anybody. And it is insane how pinpoint accurate some of the things that he says in this turn out to be, and
It's kind of
reflected
prophetic a little bit, like
oh,
how
extremely,
it's
extremely.
weird. Like I was like, that's
Yeah.
the initial takeaway I had. I was watching, I was like, man, when did this come out? Like, because just too on the nose with our future.
Yeah. There is the guy at the beginning, or 25 minutes in or whatever, that he says, I never appear on TV except on TV. And I just love that. I can't be the real person even on social media, so I'm going to hide behind. It's basically like the first troll, and the way that everything goes down is so insane, because if you don't pay attention, like, you can still enjoy the story, but there's so much depth in all of this, and just in the nuance in very specific sentences. Even Cronenberg, like, okay, so The Fly, in all transparency, was my number one Cronenberg, and
That's your
watching
favorite?
this again this week might have elevated this one to number one, just putting it back up there. I don't know why I didn't hit that hard before. It's been probably 4 or 5 years since I watched it, and I wasn't as deep into social media stuff. I mean, obviously, as I run a collector's page and I'm on YouTube live shows twice a week, whatever. But it's, yeah, for some reason, it just hit a little harder this time.
I think if I didn't like mob movies as much as I did, this would easily be number one. If I was more of a horror fan / gore fan, this would easily be my favorite movie.
Yep.
But it had been a while since I've seen it, and when I watched it again this week, I was just like, and I actually watched it early in the week, and I didn't review it on Letterboxd until like today, I think, because I was just thinking about it all week. And my favorite scene is where he goes, "Open up for me," and he inserts that VHS into his chest. And
Yep.
you ever like watch a movie and you remember them showing certain things, and then you rewatch it and you're like, oh, they didn't show it. Texas Chainsaw is a perfect
Oh, yeah.
example of that. Rewatching this, I was like, oh wow, they actually fucking showed everything.
They show everything in this movie.
And my all-time favorite part of that scene is when he pulls out the gun and it starts to just mesh in with his hand.
Yep.
It's just, I wish Cronenberg would have stayed in that lane. Obviously, I mean, even Eastern Promises has some body horror stuff, but you could tell it's a little cheesy. It didn't fit the tone of that movie. It fit the tone of this perfectly. And yeah, just, and then the end too, long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh.
And then kaboom, suicide. But yeah, this movie like is really fucking scary.
It is, and it's scary, like we both said, in a very prophetic way. And what's funny is that you bring up the gun meshing into the fingers part, and like I said, my wife fell asleep during every single movie this week, and she woke up during that scene. I was going to bring this up if you didn't. And what's funny is my wife hardly ever cusses. She was raised super conservative, religious, and all that. She opened her eyes, and it was meshing into her hand, into his hand, and she was just like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, yes, that's Cronenberg for you.
I don't think my wife could handle this movie. I really don't. I think she would be one with all like the weird sex stuff too, like the BDSM stuff. I feel like this would just be a little too much for her. I think she would be thoroughly grossed out, and she would need like to pray or something, because it's a lot. It's a lot, especially if you haven't seen that type of content.
Right.
It's a lot.
I love the difference between that and last week we were talking about us, me and my wife, watching the movie where that guy penetrated their catheter port or whatever, their colostomy bag port.
Dude, we watched just to show you like how much my wife can handle stuff. We watched Apostle last night, the Gareth Evans Netflix movie, and she could not handle that. Like there were some parts in that movie where she was like, I cannot stomach what's happening. I should have looked away. So if she couldn't handle that, she definitely couldn't handle Videodrome. I think Videodrome would ruin her. But man, strangely erotic. Like
extremely.
Also the best James Wood performance.
Yeah. That's not saying that much.
That's true. But I mean, Family Guy is pretty good in that.
I get, and
James Wood High School, right? Isn't that James
Yeah.
Wood High School?
He's in that one. He's in that one episode where he goes, "Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy."
Is he a nice guy? Because I've read that he's.
He is uber right wing nutter for Fox News now, I believe.
Oh man, come on, James. Looks like you took Videodrome too seriously.
And that's, to be honest, that's one of the things striking me this time watching it is how, I mean, Cronenberg has always been very progressive, obviously, but
Yeah.
the tone of the entire like first act into the second act of this movie is very open to sexual things that in the 80s were very taboo. Like the fact that you bring somebody over to the house and they're like, "Hey, do you got any porn to watch?" Like it's a lot more acceptable today than it was then, but it is extremely, extremely rare that it would have been so flippant about it like it was then.
I know it's rare, but maybe it's because I grew up in a restaurant that we just you kind of hire the outcast of society, the good way to
Yeah.
put it. But I remember being like 22, 23, we hired this like 40-year-old guy who would just on break would just watch porn and would like actively like try to show you
Yep.
not for like pleasure, just watching it for fun, which I do not understand. But this movie, not even just the social media stuff, like look at what's happening with like QAnon and all that stuff happening. Like this
Absolutely.
movie just hits so differently now, like even than 5 years ago. Like you said, it's been 5 years for you to see it.
Oh yeah.
The impact of the movie now versus just since I've been married and had a kid is vastly different. And I think that's probably out of all his older movies, I think Videodrome is going to be the Cronenberg film that kind of just lasts and is going to be relevant for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like it's not just shock factor for shock factor's sake. It's really trying to say something important. And man, it's such a good fucking movie.
I think that's actually the case for all of his movies, though. I don't think there's much of anything, especially like John a couple comments ago said from 75 to 86, the decade of movies that he made, it literally one of the best decades in a filmmaker's history ever, easily. And I don't think there's anything, especially pre like 2005, that I would say is just a major dud, nothing burger, terrible movie, didn't stand for anything. I think every single one has something behind it and has real meaning and lasting power. It's decayed a little bit, but I don't know. In the meantime, I think it has real staying power. I think The Fly obviously still does as well. Even a lot of the themes of Rabid, very relevant during a pandemic.
Yep. I think, obviously, I think Eastern Promises is his best work, but in that decade, and also, what like you were saying about sexual stuff, like that no one else was tackling.
Right.
I mean, a few years later, he makes Crash.
Yeah.
And that is like bizarre.
Oh yeah.
That movie is beyond bizarre. But yeah, I think, and then now Cronenberg's son is I think Possessor.
Possessor was incredible.
It's a little rough, but
yep.
My favorite movie of last year, I think, easily.
And it's only his second or third feature.
Movie. Yeah. Second full-length feature. I think it's his third project overall.
Right.
But man, that movie felt just like he was watching his dad and was like, all right, Possessor is just amazing. So
yeah, Dead Zone was in that era too, and even Dead Ringers is great.
I haven't seen Dead Ringers.
Dead Ringers is really good and very. The big thing that makes it interesting is it's about twins.
Was Scanners?
And Scanners was. Oh God, I don't want to sound like an idiot. What year was that? It was after Shivers. I know that.
1990, maybe?
No, it was not that late. 81. So yes, definitely in the middle.
Is he the best? Is he the best Canadian filmmaker?
I mean, who's even close, like to being considered.
I mean,
I-
yeah.
There's not even anyone else that I would throw out there.
No one else at all?
Not even like the same. It wouldn't be a contest at that point.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I think the Arrow release is beautiful.
Do you have the limited as well?
I used to. I sold it. I just have the standard now, sadly. But yeah, I do think that is one of the best Arrow box sets because it also includes his early works too, right?
Correct.
So yeah, that is one of my favorite. That's my favorite. It's my second favorite Cronenberg. One of my favorite movies ever. Yeah, look at that, beautiful. But what is your?
And this is all of what is in there for anybody that does not know.
Transfer Stereo, From the Drain, and Crimes of the Future. Some of those are a little rough around the edges.
I have not watched all of the early works. I will freely admit that. I still have a lot to do on the old stuff. I just quickly Googled Canadian directors, and they've got Denis Villeneuve. I did not know he was Canadian, to be honest. James Cameron.
Wait, James Cameron is Canadian?
It comes up under the pictures. I don't know if he actually is. They also have Ivan Reitman.
Okay.
Yes, James Cameron is Canadian.
Now we Spencer, you know Spencer?
Yeah.
He requested that he wants to come on next week and talk about the Raid movies.
Damn it.
Why do you say that like it's a bad thing?
Because he messaged me earlier about them.
So
and actually, I see messages flashing from him right now. Nope. Okay, we were talking about Uncut Gems as well.
Uncut Gems is wait, is that coming? Is the 4K coming out the same day as the original? Or is that already out?
No. The original was going to come out on October 26th, and it got delayed till November 23rd, and it will be a 4K combo pack.
Damn. Okay. So do you want to talk about the Raid next week?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Yes.
Have you seen the Raid?
Never.
What? Oh my god, dude! You are.
I have
fucking
purposefully been delaying because I want to double feature them, and so it's hard with having two young kids around, and I want to do 1 to 2 back to back.
I mean that's a very smart choice, but man, that's going to be awesome. I cannot wait to talk about the Raid. I love it. It's my favorite action movies of all time.
Before we move on, is there anything else about Cronenberg or Videodrome you want to throw out there?
Cronenberg needs to make another Mafia movie because Eastern Promises feels like nothing else. That bathhouse scene is just so good, which is obviously inspired by Kenji Fukasaku. But
he's already got another project announced, right?
Isn't it a body horror thing? I
believe it's going back to that, yeah.
Which is awesome. I would love to see a 2021 version of those movies, like with a nice budget, and see what he can do with modern special effects, not CGI, but modern.
And it's got Viggo Mortensen in it.
Hey,
your buddy, and then it's got one of my favorites. Kristen Stewart's going to be in it.
Kristen Stewart, and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, I'm thinking of Kristen Dunst. Kristen Stewart. Okay.
Not Kirsten Dunst. Kristen Stewart.
That's gonna be a weird team up. Viggo Mortensen and Kristen Stewart.
And the '90s heartthrob Scott Speedman's in it too.
Matt, take it easy, buddy.
See ya. Yeah, there you go. John pointed out it's actually called Crimes of the Future.
So next week we're gonna be talking about The Raid, and I'm rock hard about it. It's my favorite action movies of all time. I think you've never seen them, right? At all.
No.
You're going to be blown away.
I can't even remember right now if I've seen clips. So the entire thing is me going in fully blind, other than I believe I know the gist of the story of the second one. And I know the style.
The story is very simple. The second one's story is a little convoluted.
Maybe I have that backwards then. Maybe I know the story of the first one.
Yeah, they go to an apartment building
And Escape, yeah.
Yeah, that's the first one. So Gareth Evans had written the script for the second one first, and he couldn't get the funding he wanted. The second
Got
one was going to be a separate movie. It wasn't going to be tied to the because the Raid franchise wasn't even thought of yet. So he wrote the script for the second one, couldn't get the backing for it, but the guy who was going to back him said, "Hey, if you can make a movie for this amount," which was like $1.5 million. So when you're watching that movie, go in knowing that that's a $1.5 million budget film.
Jeez.
It's gonna blow your fucking mind. And he's like, if you can make a movie for this amount, we can do it. So he wrote a quick script, which was The Raid. They filmed it, and it became a massive sensation, just a massive hit. And then they made The Raid 2, and then he did Apostle right afterwards, and then Gangs of London, and now he's going back to the action movie genre with Havoc, which he signed an exclusive deal with Netflix. So I'm super pumped, like super pumped to talk about these movies. I adore these movies.
Good.
Raid 2 is number one on my Letterboxd. If you go to my favorites, it's been number one for a while. It hasn't changed. I love that movie. I watch it every once in a while. A lot.
I forgot. Sorry to interrupt. I know you just brought it up. I forgot that I'd actually marked stuff as my favorite. Have you ever looked at my profile on Letterboxd?
I'm gonna look right now and see what your favorites are. Are they actually funny?
Dude, it goes Green Room, The Fly, Black Christmas, and then A Muppet Christmas Carol.
Wait, what? It really does. Why?
Because I adore the Muppets. I adore the Muppets so much. I have a Muppets, like you have a Seven Samurai tattoo. I have a tattoo of the Muppets on my arm.
Really?
I really do.
Show it. Oh, that's fucking badass. That's really well done. Holy shit. I love that. So you're a big Henson fan.
I adore Henson, yeah.
What'd you think of the new what was that? Dark
Crystal, the show?
Yeah, I loved it.
The way they expanded the lore is not something I expected them to be able to do after 28 years or whatever.
Very dark
looked
for a kid's show.
Yeah, looked incredible.
Yeah, your favorites are not what I would expect you. Green Room, yes, that's a great movie. The Fly, I can see, yeah. Black Christmas, but the Muppets one is what throws me off.
I watch that every single year on Christmas.
Do you really?
I do.
Do you watch it with the kids?
Yep.
That's pretty awesome. I think we don't have a Christmas tradition yet, but I think I'm gonna make them watch Die Hard or something. I haven't seen Die Hard all the way through.
It's iconic.
It's iconic. I'm a controversial opinion here.
I don't even think it's the best Die Hard movie.
I don't think any of the Die Hard movies are worth owning. It's a little bit of a, especially as like the action fan. I know that's like sacrilegious, but man, those are just rough to watch, in my opinion.
Well, speaking of that, did you give a listen to that podcast I sent you?
No, not yet. I tried, but I was like, we're very short staffed at the restaurant. So I thought, it's super hot out. We had a fair going on last week. I was like, we're not going to be busy. I'm going to be able to watch it or listen to it at least. We were so fucking busy. I never got a chance to listen to anything. We're so packed. Why do they agree that Die Hard sucks?
No. It's a lot, and I don't necessarily want to spoil it, but it is an incredible discussion. And for those that weren't here last week that we were talking about it, I'm a huge fan and like Patreon supporter of the podcast called Screen Drafts. And basically what it is they took the draft idea for fantasy leagues and they turned it into, we're going to pick the top 7 of a very specific title. And it'll be like this week they announced, they put out, this week this is compelling video. Sorry about that. This week was Jane Austen films. So anything based off of only Jane Austen books, which is like, to me, I difficult to even name 7 quickly. But they go into literally like hour-long discussions on these things, and so you get real good deep dives. And the best thing is they turned it into what they call this competitive collaborative environment, and it's 2 people on these 7 drafts that are trying to make what is essentially the ranking of the best of 7, and they give each person a veto. So it gives a way to compete and argue and debate properly, and it is just compelling as hell to listen to. It's amazing. But the one from last week that brought all this up is they did a Planet Hollywood draft, which for those of you that don't remember the late 80s, Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Bruce Willis all bought into Planet Hollywood, huge investors. They tried to make that brand massive. And so they, on this podcast, said any movie that these guys were in is up for grabs, and they were going to rank 20 of them, all back to back to back to back, all top 20. And it went, the podcast is 6.5 hours long.
Is it funny too? Like, are they?
It's hilarious. Yeah. And it's dramatic. That's the thing, is on some of these, it is very tense, and they'll, like I said, very specific. Like a couple years ago, they did I just said I like Kristen Stewart. For Christmas, they did what they called a Christmas Stewart draft. So they did all of her films, and they loved it so much that they said, you know what? Every year for Christmas, we're going to do a Kristen Stewart related draft.
They did one on John Woo?
Yes, sir.
Oh man, I'm adding that to my queue.
And there are people that are on the show fairly frequently, and so you start to get not characters, but you start to genuinely like some of these people, and a lot of them are either like they've had genuine film directors on there.
Yeah, they had one with John Woo is Dan Trachtenberg, who did 38 Cloverfield Lane.
Yep,
that's awesome.
And
I'm just going through their episodes list.
Dustin commented and said that With a Vengeance is the best Die Hard, and not to spoil the podcast too much, but they all agreed with you, yet somehow it ranked lower than the original Die Hard. And that's just because of the dramatics and how it ended up with vetoes.
There's an episode of ranking the 7 best movies with just actors from the show Friends. So like the main friend group. That's awesome.
They did a Jim Henson draft. They did versions of Christmas Carol. Yeah. And the Cronenberg was really well done.
Hey, look, Jim Henson's is the episode right before the Cronenberg one.
There you go.
Man, I am going to be binging this.
It is one of my favorites by far.
One Crazy Night. Cool.
They did for all of you that are here and you like horror, they did a Freddy versus Jason draft where they did all of the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street movies together in one draft.
They did heist movies too.
Yep. You're going to find so many things that you want to listen to there. The show is incredible. And there's so many like really good specific rules that just create drama. And it's fantastic.
Dude, speaking of Freddy vs. Jason, have you ever been to Springfield, Illinois?
No.
So we have a character here. You can YouTube him. He has interviews. His name is the Chili Bowl Mullet Man. I'll Google a picture and actually we'll just look him up real quick. He's a great guy. He's super nice. But he is he's a character. So here he is. He only watches movies either in theaters or he watches them on his PSP. And the reason why I bring this up is because he's watched Freddy versus Jason every night of the week for the last 2 weeks. He'll post a picture and be like, watching Freddy vs. Jason on my PSP, Chili fans. That's what he calls his fans. So just listen to this guy. He's awesome.
Is John Scoggin.
I'm friends with him on Facebook, by the way.
Going around Springfield as the Chili Bowl Mullet Man.
Oh, I've always had it like this for nearly 30 years now.
For years, Scoggin has been getting attention for his hairstyle. And since he walks everywhere, he's easy to spot also.
I get people that pretty much scream out Chili Bowl mullet man. It says mullet and all that.
Since 2010, Scoggin has gone from just a guy with an interesting haircut to a local celebrity.
Like at that time, he was just kind of like this mythical Bigfoot creature. People were like, dude, check it out, it's Chili Bowl guy, it's out at the mall. And like he's gotten this following on Facebook. We have like 2,000 or 3,000 followers now.
His Facebook page actually has over 4,000.
Now he has like 10. But yeah, you guys get the picture. He's very positive. He's like, come on, guys, let's get vaccinated, and like super. Just he seems like a good dude. He's just he was at our state fair. He was an attraction at our state fucking fair. So you would pay to have a picture taken with him, and then he would slide down a slide. Like that was he would run up to the top of the stairs and go down the slide, and he just seems like a good guy. But yeah, his favorite movie is Freddy vs. Jason. And
I hope he made a killing at the fair.
I hope he did. And Freddy vs. Jason's a good movie. I don't care what anyone says.
That's a hot take.
It's an odd choice, in my opinion, to have Ronnie Yu direct that movie, though.
Oh yeah,
because he's like a Hong Kong fucking action director, and then he directs Freddy vs. Jason. I think Freddy vs. Jason is a good movie, and I think what's Monica Kina in that movie? The
I think so.
Girl. The main girl. Incredible.
That sounds right.
Laurie Campbell. Love that movie. I genuinely do love that movie. And Bride of Chucky. Yeah, but Chucky, I'm not a Chucky guy.
Good. Not looking forward to that TV series coming out on Sci-Fi.
Well, one, it's a Chucky series, and two, it's on Sci-Fi.
Yes, the original
hasn't aged well.
The original creators involved, and still the same voice and everything.
She's all right. She just looks a little cracked out.
Just a little cracked out.
Which is awesome. Oh, she's married to Edward Furlong.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to help much.
Poor Eddie Furlong, man. Damn. Oh man, Linda Hamilton looks rough too. Holy shit.
Zero. I agree completely.
Still waiting for that Ash versus Freddy versus Jason crossover. As long as it's directed by Ronnie Yu again, then hell yeah, I'll fucking gladly watch that. Was that really going to happen at one point?
It was in the talks, and I believe it was supposed to actually come out around like 2008, which would have been a great time for it.
Damn, we haven't had a big cross. That was such a big event too.
Yeah.
Like I remember having that be such a big deal. I love that movie, but I was also a little kid, so it could be nostalgia. It's like people who like Star Wars still. Star Wars is for kids. It's a child's film series, and nostalgia makes me think it's good. It's a
soap opera.
It's a bad soap opera, all of them, and people just love it because of nostalgia. Just like me, favorite Jason.
To be fair, I've only seen 5 of them still. So,
which ones have you seen?
I saw the original trilogy, and then the first 2 from the second trilogy. So I've seen episodes 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Hey, that's pretty good. Attack of the Clones is the best one.
I've had no desire to see any of the new ones yet.
They're so except for Rogue One.
I do want to see Rogue One, and I do want to see Solo. I've held off partly because it's about time to show my kids. So,
yeah,
watching a lot of them for the first time.
I showed my wife the second new one. It was her first Star Wars movie, and she was like, "I love it." I was like, "This is fucking terrible."
But that probably helps if that's your entry point. It's only going to be above and beyond eventually.
But that's my point: is that it's all nostalgia. It's like the first thing you see is, you know what I mean? Like the first album that clicks with you is going to be the greatest album of all time.
To a point, but then at least when she finally gets to Empire, she can recognize that it's one of the greatest movies ever made.
She wants to watch. I don't know. She's not really into like movies like we are. She wants to watch Lord of the Rings.
That's tough.
And I don't think those movies are good. That's
Well,
a hot take.
I wouldn't say they're not good movies. I would say the first one is very boring.
Yes.
The third one is, in my opinion, a masterpiece for sure.
The third one is a masterpiece?
Yeah.
I went with a group of friends to see every Hobbit movie as they were coming out.
I'm
I
sorry.
fell asleep. Talking about falling asleep during movies, I fell asleep during every Hobbit movie. Every single one. And I would wake up and I'd just be like, what the? It's still going? It's still going? Who's the main actor in those? Because he's god awful.
I have not seen any of the Hobbit movies.
You're a lucky man. There's the main actor. I need to look this up because I want to call him out by name and tell him he's a terrible actor. Even though he gives a shit. It's me. Martin Freeman.
I don't agree with that. He is actually a very good actor.
Wait, is that who I'm thinking of? No, sorry. Ian McKellen sucks. Just kidding. Just kidding. Your face, like what? The Two Towers is my favorite of the trilogy. The Bad Batch is a very good Star Wars TV show. I don't like any of the animated stuff that they do for Star Wars. I do think The Mandalorian's good, but it's basically just sci-fi lone wolf and cub. So, I mean, that's why it's good. Star Wars is only good when it's directly influenced by Japanese cinema. Original trilogy, Kurosawa films. Mandalorian, Lone Wolf and Cub. Rogue One, it's all right. It's the best of the new ones. You know. What's your hottest take? Your hottest take?
Whew. That's a very good question. I'd have to look through some letterbox scores or something. I'm generally not super controversial, I guess you could say.
What I want to know is why is it throughout history they give these like B-level horror movie directors will come through and then they'll give them a big franchise. Like Raimi.
It's literally all money. And the sad thing is horror works that way. So most people that do horror can do drama and comedy, but most people that start and only live in drama for years, they can never do horror or comedy because they can't go either over the top or just reach those other emotional levels. But with horror, you're going past those emotional levels. And so you obviously have it in you. And the perfect example of that is Toni Collette, I think. The way that she has acted from The Sixth Sense to fucking Hereditary, she can act in any movie in history. And she has proven that time and time again with things like Little Miss Sunshine. She kills her role in that movie. She is incredible.
John's hot take. And guys, what's your hot take? Tell us in the comments. John says his hot take, Marvel has never made a superhero movie on par with The Dark Knight.
I don't even think that's a hot take.
I think that's a correct take.
I think Marvel has a huge problem with villains, and I think The Dark Knight had the perfect villain.
I think my hot take is I don't think a single Marvel movie is good. I think they're fine. They're okay. But I think they're very disposable. They follow a very formulaic outline for every movie just feels the same. And they're too, I think anything Disney touches now is too sterile. I mean, they obviously have a hit on their hands with the Marvel films. But anything else lately that they've done, look at all the remakes, Aladdin, Mulan, Lion King, they all lack a soul. The Star Wars movies, they really fucked up. But I think the Marvel movies, like I think in 30 years from now, we're not going to be like, man, Infinity War was insane. It was incredible. It's good. We're going to look back the same way that we look back at Avatar. Avatar was the highest grossing film of all time at one point. This is the second now, right? I think it's the second.
No, I think it overtook Endgame again to get first. So
Avatar is a movie that I think is terrible. It's a terrible generic story. You take the special effects out of it, it's nothing good.
I agree. And the only thing that I will say that Marvel has different about that is I've never met anybody that is like a diehard Avatar fan.
I have.
I don't understand how there's
Yeah.
supposedly an Avatar land at Disney, or there's going to be, or something.
No, there is.
I see. I'm very out of touch with stuff like that. But with Marvel, it makes a lot more sense. And obviously, there's a lore. There is decades and decades of fandom that have, come in through comics and through the theme parks and everything else that comes with it. However, I do think that the movies are at least well made. The biggest problem, though, is if you have a lack of a relatable villain and something that makes sense other than this guy takes off a mask and his skull is red, nobody's going to care. And your final battle, that it's always the end of the world or not, it's not going to be climactic every single time. We know who has to win.
Yeah.
But that's also why the end of Infinity War was so good, because everybody lost.
I mean, I think even Thanos wasn't a compelling villain at all.
Oh no, he was a terrible villain, but
He's
at
just
least
a
it
guy who wants
it changed the formula.
It did change the formula. I think in 20 years, 30 years time, like when my kid is my age, they're gonna look at that and be like, oh, that's what was popular. Like that kind of fucking sucked.
Right.
I agree with Martin Scorsese when he said they're just theme parks. They're just eye candy, and that's all they really are. There's nothing like people. I'm sorry, but when people are like, man, I did cry at Love You 3000, but when that became like a thing where like people were crying and sobbing over every time you watch it, it's like, come on.
I think my hot take, I finally thought of it, and I don't understand the adoration for Bill Murray.
Neither do I.
I've never understood it.
I don't get it either.
He is okay in a handful of movies, like Stripes. He's pretty good. Even Caddyshack, he's mostly annoying.
I like Caddyshack. I think that's the only one I can really think of that I really like.
I think he has moments in Ghostbusters, but Ghostbusters is also extremely overrated.
Okay, that was going to be my next hot take, is I think Ghostbusters has never been good. I think Ghostbusters it's the one franchise I do not understand the nostalgia for.
I think it is good. I just think that for it to be worshipped the way it has been is extremely unnecessary.
I just don't get it. And then that one, I just don't like when things become a cultural war. And that movie with the females, it wasn't because the females. I liked every cast member of that movie. That movie was just dog shit. And it's a dog shit movie because Ghostbusters is just a dog shit franchise. And Dan Aykroyd is a dog shit human being. And that movie just wasn't good. And it turned into same thing with Star Wars. It turned into like, oh, you just don't like it because you're alt-right. You don't like women, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I just don't like bad movies. And that's a bad movie.
The issue with that discourse, though, is that there are many, many people and subcultures that do feel this movie is bad simply because it's women.
Well, yeah, and that's fine. You can criticize those people, and that's what I'm saying is that this turns into a cultural war. I got into an argument with someone on Twitter fairly recently in the last year about Ghostbusters because she had worked on Ghostbusters, and her tweet was, "Don't criticize a movie if you haven't worked on movies. Only I can criticize Ghostbusters because I worked on Ghostbusters." And I was like, that's like me being like, you can't criticize food because I own a restaurant and you don't know what food should taste like.
Right.
And like, that's just a stupid take. That's a stupid hot take. It turns into like this prop up these bad movies. Like, I think the Star Wars movies suck because Marvel and Disney didn't have a Kevin Feige to Star Wars, and they needed that. the way that they handled Star Wars just proves that Kevin Feige needs to get paid way more because
it should have been George Lucas, to be fair.
I don't know about that.
Well, not necessarily. It depends. If they took his original vision and ran with it, and they nudged him in that direction rather than the freedom necessarily. But
I think George. I feel like a lot of directors Neil Blomkamp comes to mind, where they're good filmmakers, they're just not necessarily good writers, and they would need, like, if Kevin Feige and George Lucas teamed up,
Yep.
and they were like, "Hey,
And
we're gonna
that's
do
what
it,"
I'm getting at.
that would be awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. There's some movies that don't need to be brought back every generation. Yeah, I mean, Terminator, I would love for somebody to do a good Terminator movie at some
Yep.
point. But it just feels like all these old franchises they just fucking suck. I just like, they're just not good. Someone needs to bring back the Mighty Ducks and make it R. We need a R
There's a Disney Plus TV show, right?
of Mighty Ducks.
Yep.
Live action. It's out right now.
I got to be honest, I was not following closely. I think it's either out or about to be out, but Emilio Estevez is back.
Okay, I will watch that. I was joking, but holy shit, my joke turned into reality real quick.
To go back to it though, the argument that I'm tired of seeing, and the person you brought up who said you can't criticize film unless you've worked on film, that's like,
Real quick.
it's a generic form of elitism that I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense logically, obviously. But the next side of that is there are people, and I saw it Friday night after I went and saw Candyman in theaters and looked up what is film Twitter saying about this, and the fact that you can look up Candyman trending, and there are people saying Candyman is too overtly woke. Like, do you know what the franchise is? The whole point of Candyman is to subvert racism. That's the entire.
Also, things can be woke and still be good, and things can be conservative and still be good. Like this movie that I talked about earlier is very conservative tinged, and it's a great fucking movie. And
Right.
things can be woke, like was it Us and Get Out? Those can be quote unquote woke. I'm just using that as a broad term because there's really no definition of woke,
Exactly.
and still be great movies. Even though I'm not a horror guy, I do think those are good movies. But I just don't. I hate when something is just because it's conservative or because it's woke,
Right.
it's automatically stupid. It's turned into a culture war, and it's just I hate those arguments.
And those are the idiots that will say like Dawn of the Dead was an incredible movie. How come we can't go back to something like that? And it's like, that was overtly woke as well. You just didn't pay attention to the same way.
I feel like horror movies, though, as a genre, as much as I don't like horror movies, they are very much, I think, the genre where surface level, you'll get what you're looking for. You'll get the kills, you'll get the nudity, you'll get, the action, the cool gore effects. But a lot of horror movies, I feel like out of almost any other genre, have more deeper meanings to them.
Oh yeah, every single one almost.
So it's easy for somebody to be like, it's kind of like when Trump's kids were tweeting out against Rage Against the Machine. They're like, "Oh, we used to be such big fans of you." It's like why? Like people calling Rage Against the Machine and Tom Morello woke.
Morello.
It's like, what? Where the fuck were you ever in the history of that band being around? Like, it's just, I don't know. People just, art is very, it's very art's all about how you perceive things, and I think it's fine to perceive things on surface level, but you're gonna make yourself look like an idiot when you're like, yeah, well, Dawn of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead. Could you imagine Night of the Living Dead in 2021? Yeah, that's a perfect example. That's a classic movie, and the last guy to stay alive is a black dude.
Yep. Could
you imagine the outrage on fucking Twitter?
Putting a white woman in her place for the entire movie.
Which, I mean, sometimes they need to be. I mean, let's be honest. We're both married to white women, so we can say that. I'm kidding. Kind of. But I mean, at the same time, this is why I love movies like Lone Wolf and Cub and John Wick and The Raid, is because they don't say anything deeper. They're just amazing at what they do, and they're fucking entertaining. But I do appreciate stuff like Night of the Living Dead, and he gets shot though at the end, and that's also could be a statement of of something.
Right.
But yeah, I just hate the culture war that every form of media has turned into. And it's so exhausting.
I agree.
I just want to hate Star Wars and not be labeled a sexist. Hey, there's a deeper meaning to Army of the Dead too.
The deeper meaning was fulfilled eventually, though, because they did release the Snyder Cut, so everything is fine.
The Snyder Cut, Jesus Christ. That's another thing. Why can't we all focus on that being the dumbest fucking thing? The dumbest marketing ploy I've ever seen in my life. That was like a year long.
And it paid off. I don't know how. They've made so much money off of the same fucking movie.
Dude, I haven't even sat through all of that movie.
I've watched one, I think. I think it's only one last week was the second one. I watched Suicide Squad. Other than that, I've watched one DC movie, and it was not Justice League. So
Justice League should be a flip movie. Because I love when there's like dark religious themes in movies. I love, I think Ben Affleck could have been a great Batman given a good script. Like Batman vs Superman. The fight scenes are good. That script fucking sucks. But that should have been a flip movie. It ticks all the boxes. And then they made that even more pretentious one, black and white. Fuck yeah, let's go. And I can't. I think Zack Snyder is an awful director. I think visually he has a good eye for shit.
agreed.
He needs somebody to write his shit for him. He is not a good writer. What's the longest movie y'all watched? Oh man. I'm trying to think.
I mean,
all
all of Scorsese's movies are forever long.
War and Peace.
What'd you say?
I watched in one sitting. That's like 7 hours, I think, or some bullshit.
I don't have any 7-hour movies, that's for sure.
I did watch Irishman a couple weeks ago. 3.5 hours. But isn't that amazing, though, that movie, in my opinion, doesn't feel like it's 3.5 hours. It feels like you're just watching a 90-minute movie. And then we watched Deadlock. And for a 90-minute movie, that felt like a 3.5-hour movie.
It felt like a 3.5-hour movie, yeah.
It's just all about pacing and acting and Scorsese just being one of the greats.
Yep.
Did you see Francis Ford Coppola wants to make he's going to do his Megalopolis movie?
No.
Did you see that news?
No.
He said if he can't get the funding, he's just going to fund it himself, $120 million.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. He's going to sell his wine company. He's going to sell his...
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Francis Ford Coppola. Hey, I really like Francis Ford Coppola. He is very important to my family's culture.
I really like his son.
Who's his son?
Maybe you should Google that. So nobody say the answer in the chat.
It's not
Let
Nick
him
Cage.
Google this.
That's his nephew.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
That's why I was like, who's the son?
Whatever.
That's very strange to me that that's his fucking nephew. Could you imagine being the guy who made the Godfather trilogy and then your nephew is fucking Fredo himself, Nick Cage?
But look at where he started though. Like fucking Wild at Heart. If he would have went down that path, and to be fair, I think he has with a lot of his choices. He just made some bad financial choices, which led to.
I think Pig is a great movie. I think it's one of his best.
I still haven't seen it.
Oh, dude. One of his best.
I've heard it's amazing.
Ever. But like you were saying, he bought a pyramid. He was doing stupid shit, which is what I would do if I had that much money. I'd be like, I'm going to die in a fucking pyramid. Hell yeah. But wait, maybe his pyramid's not even there anymore because that was in New Orleans. It's a terrible. You need to put a pyramid somewhere above sea level. Tips with Flip. Flip's tips.
Don't plan to be buried underwater.
But yeah, I mean, that's cool though. Francis Ford Coppola is going to be able to make a movie at 81 years old, $120 million budget.
That he bankrolls himself.
I would love to see it. He's going to have everybody in. He's going to have Forrest Whitaker, he said. He's going to have Oscar Isaacs in it.
Wow.
So Ensemble cast. It's going to be based on a story of the Roman Empire, but set in New York City during modern times.
That sounds very Francis Ford Coppola.
Sounds fucking rad. Sounds super rad. The Godfather is such a good movie, dude. Godfather 2 might be the most perfect movie of all time.
And I still haven't seen 3 on purpose.
Watch Coda. Coda's actually legitimately all right. The original third one, oh, it was fun. On Monday, Brigida came into my room and she was like, "What's that?" And I gave it to her, and it was the Godfather box set. And she was going, "I love the Godfather." And I was like, "Go ask your mom if you can watch it." And I see her carry it out, and she goes, "Mom, I want to watch Godfather." And my wife's like, "What?" No. He bought a skull of a T-Rex. That's right, Nick Cage did
Jesus.
do that. That's fucking awesome. See, that's the kind of shit I would do if I had money. If I had a lot of money.
And speaking of that podcast, they did a full Nicolas Cage draft. I think it was like top 20 movies of his.
Holy fuck. How long is that episode?
It's a good like 4 hours.
Jesus Christ. Well, what was number one?
I think there was somebody that trolled because they got everybody to get rid of all their vetoes, so they put a shitty movie at number 1, and I think it was Ghost Rider.
Hey, that's a great movie. I like that more than any other MCU movie.
That is the first and so far only movie I've walked out of the theater at.
Ghost Rider?
Yep.
You don't like
I hated that movie.
Isn't Eva Mendes in that?
I don't even remember.
Oh, come on. That's classic. He's really good in that
Although-
Bad Lieutenant sequel or remake. The one by Erner what's his name? God, why the fuck am I blanking today, dude? My brain isn't working today.
At least you didn't just say he was Francis Ford Coppola's son.
Hey, Warner Herzog. He was
Oh,
in
that's right.
Port of Call, New Orleans, and then he lost the skull due to the bank taking it away. So a bank just has a T-Rex skull. That's super cool. What's going on, Ice? What's going on? Ice watched that new Mads Mikkelsen movie the other day.
Oh,
Riders of Justice. He said he liked
Yeah.
it. I would probably like it too. So I'm gonna probably watch it tonight. I don't know what we're gonna watch tonight. I think I told the wife I would do the dishes. She made an amazing dinner. Homemade tomato soup. She grounded up the tomatoes herself. Homemade grilled cheeses on sourdough. Oh my god, dude. So fucking good. I interviewed Herzog years ago. So I was so scared because he eventually directed me in the interview.
wow.
You worked with Herzog. Was he nice? He seems like he would be a complete fucking asshole. But if you could take that,
he seems very imposing.
Yeah, he seems like a fucking just a mean dude. But if you can handle it, he's gonna love you.
And I love even that Shout Factory set that they put out. It's his face on the front, and even that picture, it captures that. Like, I am off put by what you look like right now.
He seems like he's just even in Star Wars, man, you're just like, what's wrong with you? Fucking smile or something. Yeah, even his letterbox picture is imposing, dude. Yes, cold, calculating, and intelligent. How old is he?
Exactly what I would say about Herzog.
42. Man, he's done a lot of movies that I didn't even realize. He's the director of 77 movies.
Jeez.
Jesus Christ. Damn. Who do you think's the director on Letterboxd that has the highest rating score out of all their movies?
Probably Chris Nolan, because there's so many film bros on Letterboxd.
I think Chris Nolan sucks.
I wouldn't say that he sucks as a director. I think that my biggest complaint about Nolan is that he does not know how to properly mix his movies at all. I am so pissed off when I watch a Nolan movie because I can't hear the dialogue for shit.
Really?
In most of his movies, the dialogue is way lower than it should be.
I watched Tenet the first time with subtitles, so that wasn't like, you know what I mean? I do think Tenet's his best movie. That's probably a hot take.
I still haven't seen Tenet.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
And I watch everything with subtitles, so that doesn't bother me.
Yes. Most of the movies I watch, you need subtitles to even understand what's going on. So
I do think, like John, I think Kubrick's would probably be pretty high up as well.
Kubrick, hottest unibrow in the game.
I mean, he's one of those directors. There's nothing in his filmography that you can really say, like, this is a terrible dud, awful movie.
Is there a director that you can think of that's all bangers except one movie?
It's hard to think of just off the cuff. I will say Carpenter is kind of close to that for me.
Yeah, I think Carpenter is almost 100%. I wish the licensings would get sorted out. We could just get one big ass Carpenter box set.
That would be nice. God, Shout Factory is only missing Dark Star, I think.
That's pretty good considering how many movies did he direct? 40?
Or wait, they didn't get
Ghost of Mars. That's my favorite.
yeah, I don't think they got Ghost of Mars either.
That's a good movie. I like that movie, but it's also nostalgia. John says Carpenter, Cronenberg, and Scorsese. I don't think Scorsese's had a bad movie.
That's what I was going to ask. What his dud would be?
I think Tarantino's 100%. I would say if John Woo never came to America, he would be up there.
Oh, that's right. Scream Factory doesn't have the award either.
Well, now that we're talking about Asian directors, I think Bong Joon-ho hasn't made a bad movie yet. I think he's batting 100%. Tarantino 100%.
Have you seen Okja? I haven't watched Okja yet.
Yeah, I really like that movie. I've
heard a lot of bad things about it.
I mean, it's different. I would say that is probably objectively his worst movie, but I still liked it. I mean, Chad Stahelski hasn't made a bad movie yet. He's only done 3, and they're all John Wick movies. So,
now I'm curious what John is going to say. Cronenberg and Scorsese's duds are.
Yeah, John, I really want to know what the duds are out of those two, because those are very interesting choices for that answer.
And is the Carpenter answer, is that the Ward for you?
It's 3 for 3. The Wailing, The Chaser, and the Yellow Sea. Yeah, that's true. Have you seen The Chaser?
I've not seen The Chaser.
It's only on DVD. You should probably get it. It's incredible. And what's going on, Eric?
What year did that come out?
The Chaser came out in 2008, I want to say.
It's only on DVD?
Only on DVD. Let me see. Well, it could be sooner than that. Let me see. I'm going to guess 2008. The Chaser is, 2008 on the dot. Damn.
Nice.
It's only available here. So John says Cosmopolis for Cronenberg, which I think is an obvious answer for people. And then The Ward. But what is Scorsese's dud?
I've heard people say The Departed, which I just don't understand. It's still a great movie.
It's his worst movie, but it's a good movie, though. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
What do you think is Tarantino's worst movie?
I mean, everybody is going to say his input for Grindhouse.
Really? I thought Death Proof was... I mean, I loved all of his movies. Silence or Hugo?
Silence is a hot take from what I've still not put time in to watch Silence.
Adore Silence, dude. I watched that
Right.
a couple weeks ago, like maybe a month ago.
See, there you go. John says for Tarantino, it's Death Proof.
Trying to think.
And I love Grindhouse.
I would say maybe Reservoir Dogs for me is my least favorite.
That's a hot take.
I mean, I love it. I love that. I think Tarantino is one of my favorite directors. I love Reservoir Dogs, but there's not a lot going on in that movie, and it's very much I have to be in the right frame of mind. But that opening shot where it's just spinning around the table and everyone's talking is such a good fucking shot too. Some people will say Boxcar Bertha, Age of Innocence for Marty. See, all these are good movies though. Marty's awesome.
And see, that's what I'm talking about. I'm looking for somebody, and I believe when you asked the question, you were looking for the same thing. All great movies, except for one that is an objectively bad movie. Like with Carpenter, The Ward is bad.
What about Ghost
It
of
is
Mars?
not. It's at least fun, and
True.
there's a lot that makes it entertaining, and that went into it being at least a semi-compelling story.
It's a creative movie. It's very fun.
Yeah.
I don't think Coriata has made a bad film. I don't think so either. I think that's another director that's 100%. I think Park Chan-wook hasn't made a bad movie either.
Yep.
He is I fucking cannot stand vampire movies, and his take on the whole vampire genre was great. Who would be your top 5 favorite directors? Or here's an easier question. Who's a director that's relatively still young in their career that you love?
That is I have an answer for that. 1 second. I for sure have an answer for that. That is a great question. Do you have an answer for that offhand?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
Gareth Evans. I think
I figured that was going to be the answer.
I think his segment was on VHS 2 is the best segment in that. I think Marantau is a good directorial debut. And I think the Raid 1 and 2 are it blows my mind that someone goes from VHS 2, Marantau, and then makes, which are both solid movies, but then makes the two, in my opinion, greatest action movies of all time. And then goes into making a TV show. And while the TV show's story is very hit or miss, he directed all the action scenes. And episode 5 of Gangs of London is one of the most violent things I've ever seen. And for somebody who is still young in filmmaking, he has signature like stuff that he does with the camera. And then his new movie Havoc. And then also he did right after Raid 2, he did Apostle. And rewatching that the other night, I think that's a great movie. I think that's a very fun movie. And for me, a lot of criticism I see of Gareth Evans is that he can't write a story. I think people complain that the Raid 2 story is very convoluted. I think he writes stories very similar to like how Hong Kong directors were writing stories back in the 90s, because he's a huge Hong Kong fan. And for someone who loves that stuff, I love his style. And then Eric says Timo, I can't even pronounce his last name, but the guy who did The Night Comes for Us, he's done like a handful of movies. Headshot, Night Comes for Us, and he's really damn good. But and I can't wait to see what Gareth Evans does next. Havoc is my most anticipated film. So
I've got a heart answer, but it's not going to be able to be a real answer because he's technically only directed one feature.
Oh shit.
So I'll speak on that, and then I'll share my real one that I would have to say is the actual answer. But I think that and he's very close to my age, so I'm going to say our generation is going to recognize the talent of this person too late, and then come back and culturally grasp everything that he did in this huge wave. And that person is Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
Bo Burnham has been doing comedy for 16 and a half years now. And 16 and a half years ago, I was 18 when Bo released his first YouTube video. And literally within the first month, I had watched his first YouTube video and subscribed and have been following him ever since. All of his comedy specials are literally brilliant. Wordplay that you will never find on like the best rap albums. He has some better lines than some of the best speakers in history in all of his comedy. Then he feels personally attacked by the comedy scene and leaves to fucking direct 8th Grade, which is a
Amazing.
masterpiece of directing. The movie is great and all that, but the directing in that movie, particularly, is so well done. And then the pandemic comes after he takes all of his time for that, and he wants to go back to comedy. And I don't know if you've watched it yet, but his comedy special Inside that he released on Netflix, it's a cultural landmark. And I'm not trying to sound so much like a hipster or anything here,
No, he's
but
right.
it is one of the deepest, most thoughtful, introspective ideas that have ever been realized in a way that most people have never even heard of. And it is astonishing that he just turned 30 years old.
I went into his special not expecting to. I cry during a lot of movies, but it's not like a hard cry. And for
Right.
whatever reason, during All Eyes on Me, I had like an existential crisis and was
Exactly.
like, what the fuck? I don't understand how you could make something that has me literally laughing my ass off at one point and then going into tears in the next one. And I also want to talk about Bo. He has a joke book, like a book of poetry. Have you read it?
No.
My friend who works at the pizza place brought it with him at work the other night, and I was going through it, and it's really good, like really funny. I think he's like a Renaissance man. He's just
really
everything
is.
he does is just like I had to order that book after I read a few jokes, and a lot of it's like just really creative dick jokes, just really fucking funny punny dick jokes, and I was like, man, this is right up my alley.
And speaking of Renaissance, I think the only other person that even stands close to that person, Ice just brought up, and that's Donald Glover. Donald Glover and Bo are punch for punch on two different sides of the same coin. Almost perfect. The only thing I will say is Donald Glover doesn't direct most of his stuff. He has a hero, whatever his last name is. I never remember his last name.
But Atlanta's amazing, though.
Atlanta is incredible. I cannot wait for that next season. But my real answer, if I was going to say somebody who's directed multiple things and I'm like eagerly anticipating the next thing, is probably Ari Aster. Hereditary and Midsommar, I don't know why, but they hit me really, really well. Even his short films, I never remember the title of it, but the Keeping Up with the Johnsons or whatever it's called, it's like I think it's like 18-minute short film, and it is weird and bizarre and gross and just in your face, and it is so good. He has such an eye and creative design that is just, again, I'll use the word compelling. It just makes me want to keep watching. And Midsommar, the director's cut is the only cut of the film I've ever watched. I've never seen the theatrical cut, and the reason is it is so good, I don't see a reason to go take any of it out. And the director's cut is literally, I think, 2 hours and 40 something minutes long. And it feels like an hour-long movie to me.
That movie blew me away when I watched it.
There is so much, like, Florence Pugh in the first 8 minutes of that movie should have won a goddamn Oscar.
She's great in that movie. Me and Taylor watched Hereditary and Midsommar, I would say probably like a week apart from each other. And we were both just like, what the fuck? This guy is amazing. Yep, I love that.
This is amazing. I love it.
Another director, speaking of A24, is the guy who did The Witch. What's his name?
Robert Eggers.
Robert Eggers. Yeah, The Witch. The Lighthouse is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love that movie. And now he's doing a revenge movie called The Norseman, which is done filming apparently. I can't wait for that to come out. Another young director is S. Craig. Well, not young. He's in his 40s, but S. Craig Zoller has only done 3 movies: Bone Tomahawk, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete.
I've loved them all.
I've loved all of them. That's another thing. That's a conservative tinted director.
Yep.
His movies fucking rock.
All of them.
Who's a director that had a lot of promise and then went on to make consecutive turds?
Ooh.
That like a director that you loved, but then went on to make just terrible movies. Because I have two answers for this.
I'll say one that I think is probably going to be seen as somewhat of a hot take, and especially I've not seen his entire filmography. I will say that now. There are certain ones that I've not seen, but one that immediately comes to mind for that is Spike Lee. I love some of Spike Lee's movies as some of the cornerstones of our culture. Me growing up, there's so much that I related with in half of that for how I was raised. But man, he's got some bad movies.
Yeah, like Old Boy. Fucking offensive how bad that is. For me, it's David Ayer. He writes Training Day, directs End of Watch and Fury, which are great movies. I would even
I love
say
both of them.
Harsh Times is okay. Street Kings is okay. But then he does Suicide Squad, Bright, Sabotage, and The Tax Collector. Just back to back to back to back terrible movies. And then the other one I gotta say is Taylor Sheridan. Taylor Sheridan
Ooh.
writes Sicario, which is amazing.
Yep.
Right. And I do like the sequel to Sicario, and Ice hates me for it, but I think that's equally as good as the original. Right.
I've actually not seen the second one yet.
There's a scene in can I spoil a scene in Sicario 2?
Oh yeah. I'll forget by then.
So there's a scene in Sicario 2 where you like Sabotage for some reason. I could not get into just how over the top trashy everyone was. It was too much for me. Arnie carried that movie. There's a really good insult by Arnie. He's getting interrogated by police in that movie, and he goes, "Look at you with your body mass index of 40 or something," because the guy's like super overweight. I was like, damn, that's a really good fucking comeback. What was I saying? Sicario. Oh yeah. So in Sicario 2, Benicio del Toro's character is escorting one of the cartel boss's daughters, and they're in the countryside because the Americans want him dead and her dead because she saw the plan. And they come across a guy who's deaf, and they have an interaction. This is where you learn that Benicio del Toro's character, his daughter, was deaf before she died. So he's signing with this guy, and the guy's like, "How do you know sign language?" And you like just the way Benicio del Toro's body language is, like when he realizes he's going to have to use sign language for the first time since his daughter died, you could see on his face that he is emotional. But he holds it together. And it's literally a 3-minute scene of just these two people interacting. And it's beautifully it's just super well done. It's full of it's just such a nice humanizing moment for in the previous film. The only thing you knew about him was that his family died, but he's a ruthless person. He kills 2 children in that movie. But yeah, so Taylor Sheridan writes these 2 movies, which I think are great. Writes Hell or High Water, which is an amazing movie. Then writes and directs Wind River, which is a great movie and touches on the subject of Native American women disappearing and being murdered and no one really caring about it. Has a performance from an actor I can't really stand, Jeremy Renner. And then he does Yellowstone, the TV show, which is, it's good. It's a good boomer entertainment. But then he does Without Remorse. He writes Without Remorse, which is terrible.
Haven't seen it. And
Those Who Wish I Was Dead, which he directs and writes, and it's terrible. So he's on a downward spiral, in my opinion. And it sucks because at one point I was like, anything Taylor Sheridan does, I'm there for it, day one. And now it's like, eh. But man, David Ayer, what the fuck happened? How do you write Training Day and then make Suicide Squad? Like, how the fuck does that happen?
I will say another one that I'm super stoked that at least the last few have been great. I love the Safdie brothers.
Yes, that was going to be one of my picks too.
I don't know. Have you seen Waves from A24?
Waves?
Waves with Sterling K. Brown, directed by Trey Edward Schultz, the guy that did It Comes at Night.
No, I have not.
Waves is a movie that it is one of those ones that will pull emotions out of you that you are not ready for, and it is an odd one because the climax of the movie is about 2/3 of the way through, and the movie gives you time in the final act to calm and breathe with the family as they recover from things. It's a really interesting concept, and it's meant to be like that because you have the rising tension up to a breaking point, and then the last third is just you coming down with the protagonist of the movie. Very interesting. He also did It Comes at Night. I don't know if you've seen that
That's a
one,
good movie.
but that is a good movie.
I really like that movie. I can't think of any other directors that were. Oh, I think John Woo's a good example. Someone who was on a winning streak and then came to America, but some people love those movies though, and I can't tell
Right.
if they're joking or not. But now he's made. Did you see his last movie? He made a movie like 5 years ago. It was terrible.
I don't think so. Which one was it? Do you remember?
I don't know. It was on Netflix though. It's terrible. Oh my god, my wife just sent me a TikTok about 9/11. Thank God. I almost forgot. Almost forgot.
What is it? 12 more days, and then the jokes are okay because it's been 20 years, right?
Yeah. Now we can really start ripping into it. We used to have a guy that used to work at the restaurant. He would wear a POW MIA shirt, and then on the back it would say "Never Forget." And I was like, "Dude, thank God you wore that shirt again because I fucking forgot about that." Thanks. Ryuya Kitamura has that's a perfect example. So he did Versus. Have you seen Versus?
Not yet.
Oh my god, dude. Versus is great. He does Versus. He does Azumi, I believe, is another movie of his. But his style has always been very here, I'm pulling it up right now. His filmography. So yeah, he does Versus, he does Azumi, he also does Origami, which I really enjoyed, Godzilla Final Wars, and then the Midnight Meat Train. And ever since then, he also did Alive too. But ever since then, he's just been doing duds like Downrange, The Doorman from last year, starring Ruby Rose and Jean Reno.
Oh God.
And it's got a 2.2 on Letterboxd. Yeah, he's just been on a downward spiral since.
Man, I had not heard anybody mention Midnight Meat Train other than me in years. I got a beautiful steelbook of that movie this week.
Did you really show it off? I love that movie. I'm trying to think of another director.
Now that Criterion upgraded the A24 of Uncut Gems to 4K, I hope they upgrade Good Time from the Safdie brothers and give us a 4K.
That'd be great.
But here is my steel. Look at this.
Oh shit! Who's that from?
This is from NSM in Germany.
That's a beautiful steelbook.
The back of it has all of the Polaroids.
That's a good movie.
That is very glary. Yeah, damn.
So Ice is saying Soderbergh has disappointed him, but I'm going to say the opposite. I think his last handful of movies have been great. I think No Sudden Move was awesome.
Soderbergh is an odd one because, and there is on that podcast, there's a Soderbergh draft. That's a fun one too. But he has done so many. I mean, first off, just so many movies and so many big movies. So it's very hard to just compare everything. But I don't know that I don't know that I can say that I was disappointed necessarily in any of the ones that he's done.
I think Logan Lucky's awesome.
It was fun as hell. Yeah, for sure. And then what's the other one that I was thinking of from him? Side Effects. I think that was him. Did you ever see
Magic
that?
Mike?
I actually have not seen either of the Magic Mike
Neither
movies
have I.
yet, but
That was-
supposedly the second one's great. Yeah,
this
Side
was Michael
Effects is the
Mann.
one I watched. So from 2013, and speaking of Magic Mike, this stars your boy Channing Tatum and Rooney Mara. So the little one-line synopsis on Letterboxd: a woman turns to prescription medication as a way of handling her anxiety concerning her husband's upcoming release from prison, and that's Channing Tatum getting out. It is a really, really good one, in my opinion.
Is it a serious movie?
Yes.
Is he good in that?
Oh yeah, Channing Tatum is a great actor.
You didn't like Logan Lucky, Ice. What the fuck? Ice. There's a recommendation manga called Teppu. It's an MMA manga. That's awesome. But Eric says Michael Mann's last few movies.
Since you're highlighting him, I will say that he put out I believe a review for Mystics in Bali tonight, and I cannot wait to watch that tomorrow during work.
What is that?
It is a Mondo Macabro released movie. It only came out on DVD, but it's I think an Indonesian like supernatural mystical movie that is supposed to be incredible. I've not been able to get to it yet, but I cannot wait to see what he thought of
Good
it.
genre movies.
Yeah.
Indonesia's incredible. I have a question. Who's a director that is middle of the road to bad overall, but you love?
Ooh, that I love. I mean, to go to my horror side, I'll probably say Lucio Fulci. He has so many.
Love him though.
Yes, a lot of people do, but it's true. He's got a lot of quirks as a director, and a lot of the stuff that he has decided to do, they're just not great decisions. But he's got 25 great movies.
My answer would be Yuji Shinomura, who did Death Trance, Crazy Samurai Musashi, and Reborn. I think all those movies, especially Death Trance and Crazy Samurai, are bad movies, but the action is so good. And they star Tak Sakaguchi. All three of his movies star Tak Sakaguchi. Reborn, I think, is the only one that's a genuinely good movie. But I love everything he does, to the point where I have bought multiple versions of Reborn. Like, I love that movie. Death Trance is just. Have you played Devil May Cry?
Way back in the day, yeah.
You know how just crazy the gunfights are, like all over the place.
Yep.
There's a scene where he's literally doing that. Like, it's just, but with like a cane gun. I don't know. I can't even explain it. But he's great. I love him. But I disagree with Eric about Michael Mann. I think was it Public Enemies? I think that movie rocks. Oh, who's the guy that did Black Mass? Or is it Black Sunday? With
Black
Johnny
Mass.
Depp. Is it Black Mass?
Yeah.
Who?
I love that John said gasp to what I said about Fulci. Just to clear the air there, I adore Fulci. That's why I said that. And the sad thing is, historically, he is not well regarded as an amazing director.
Yeah, Scott Cooper, Crazy Heart with Jeff Bridges. It's a good movie. Then he did out of the Furnace, which I really enjoyed. And then he did Hostels, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. I love that movie.
Yep.
Then he did Black Mass, which is it's all right. But then his next movie is Antlers, coming out in 2021. So
Antlers is supposed to be great too.
Yeah, so I mean that's a guy who's almost betting 100%.
Sure, John, just giving me crap. I'll say a little more of a less mainstream choice. I really love Jamie Blanks as a director. The big things that he's done are Urban Legend and Valentine, and I think he gets a lot of crap because it was right in the post-Scream era of horror, and so Valentine came along and it was this very Scream influence type of feel, but really Jamie Blanks wrote that way before Scream came out, and Jamie Blanks actually was considered to direct Scream before they gave it to Wes Craven.
Really?
And because he had a student film that was very similar to Scream in nature, and they were like, well, this script that's being passed around, it's kind of similar. You want it? And he was talking about it in negotiations, all that, and then they went, well, we're going to give it to Wes Craven. And obviously, that's probably a better choice overall. It would
Probably
have
way
been rough
better
if that
choice
was
in
his
history.
first feature. But yeah, a lot of people just do not like his choices. They don't like his movies. I think he's great. Yeah, Valentine is amazing.
Let's go and wrap it up. It's almost 2 hours, which again always blows by when I'm talking to Ryan. I do want to say next week. Wait, Stephen Kelly's got a question. What director has not made a bad movie in your opinion? So we talked about this a little earlier. I would say
Tarantino still.
Tarantino is probably the one that I look at. I'm like, damn, there's not a bad movie in there.
I just thought of my perfect answer for the who has it one dud, and that's the Coen brothers.
What's the dud?
The Terminal, right? They did that one. Am I thinking right? There's another movie, or not the Terminal. God, what is the name of it? The one with Tom Hanks.
There's a Coen Brothers Tom Hanks movie?
Yeah.
That sounds like a winning
The
formula.
Lady Killers.
I have not seen that.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's not a good movie. But like, I love Burn After Reading. I love A Serious Man. True Grit is freaking great. Inside Llewyn Davis was fun.
No Country.
I've yet to see Hail Caesar. A lot of people hate that, so that could be a bad one. Yeah, No Country is a masterpiece. I adore Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, The Big Lebowski, Fargo, Hudsucker Proxy, Barton Fink, Miller's Crossing. Blood Simple. I've raved about on this.
Didn't True Grit win Best Picture?
I think so. I know it won at least one.
Okay, here's one more question before we go. Here's a good topic. Who's a director that is hailed as one of the all-time greats, but anytime he gets attached to a project now, you roll your eyes? Because they haven't made a good movie in recent years.
I mean, probably a very stereotypical answer, but probably Michael Bay.
I think that's an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I do think that movie he made about what's that soldier movie he made with John Krasinski or whatever his name is?
Oh, the 13 Soldiers?
Yeah, I thought that was
something
all right.
like that. Yeah, and yeah, I think Michael Bay has a lot of talent. That is actually a great answer from John.
That's my
Spielberg.
That was my answer. That was gonna be mine. I cannot stand Steven Spielberg. When he gets,
You know what he's working on right now, right?
What?
West Side Story.
Who gives a fuck? West Side Story
Exactly.
sucks. Yeah, see, Ice knows me. See, those take a couple minutes to. Oh yeah, I hate Steven Spielberg, dude. Has not made a good movie since Saving Private Ryan.
That might be true.
Ready Player One's so good, bro. You gotta watch Ready Player One. I have a friend named Tito, and I've talked about him. M. Night Shyamalan's had some bangers in recent years, though. He dipped, and then he came back a little bit.
West Side Story and Indy 5, boo.
I think Ron Howard is a fucking god-awful shit tier director.
Yeah, he's not great.
Whenever he gets, like, didn't he save Solo or something? He came in direct. Whenever he directs something, I'm just like, oh my god, dude, stick to fucking Happy Days. Who's another director?
God, Spielberg has not done much recently.
Yeah, his last good movie was fucking Saving Private Ryan. He sucks. I just don't understand the praise. Like, I really don't.
Okay, I definitely can't agree with you that his last good movie was Saving Private Ryan, because
Yeah.
Catch Me If You Can came after.
Def.
Catch Me If You Can is freaking amazing.
Okay, I'll give you that. Lincoln was a boring fucking movie.
He is somebody that definitely makes bloated movies. Every single thing that he puts out, you can cut off 20, 25 minutes easily.
I agree. He's really doing West Side Story, damn. Someone who dipped, but it's coming back is Ridley Scott.
Yeah, I will give that.
He's I mean, Gladiator is incredible. Was it Black Hawk Down? Was that Ridley Scott? That's a fucking great movie. And then he's doing The Last Duel. Looks good. Yeah, I actually like Ridley Scott quite a bit. I just don't get the fucking fervor behind Steve. I really don't. I don't
It's
even
not
get
all nostalgia.
I don't get Jaws. I mean, I get why people like. I just don't. I look at that movie. I'm like, okay, like Jurassic Park is okay. It's
Jurassic Park is one of my favorites of all time, so that's a tough one. And Jaws, I think, is, if you look back and actually analyze it, I think it's very close to being a perfect movie. I think it is still overrated in terms of like cultural impact, but it is tonally, pace-wise, acting, and even special effects and everything they did with the shark, pretty damn close to a perfect movie.
it's still better than Stalker, but
And that's all that matters.
that's not saying much. But before we go, I do want to say next week we're watching the Raid 1 and 2. We'll have a third party on. I do want to say, Ryan, when you're watching both those movies, you're going to be engrossed by the fight scenes. But look at the cinematography in those movies. He works with the same cinematographer. They're like best buds, but everything he's done from Marantau, he's had the same guy. So even the television show he's done is the same guy. I follow him on Instagram. He posted a picture of the camera that they're filming Havoc with, and it was covered in blood splatter. So I am so fucking excited.
Awesome.
I can't wait to see Tom Hardy do that action. Like, I'm so fucking ready. God, but man, those movies are so good. I can talk for hours about the Raid movies. Like, what's three things that you want from like an action movie? Like, what are like if you think of an action movie, I think like good 1v1 fight. You know, there's some action, you know, and when I think of that, I think of like Meals on Wheels.
Right.
I'm
very plot driven with a lot of that, the way that I analyze action movies. So one of the things that like John Wick really does well is I want a fast start. I don't want an action movie to start 35 minutes into it.
Yeah.
The other big thing is I want there to be a relatable conflict that is motivating all of the action. I hate we're going to throw 10 henchmen at this guy just to see him beat them off. But that was a weird way to say that. To see him defend himself as he, makes his way to the top floor. It doesn't do that much to me, but I want to see him fighting through these for some reason. And then probably I'm a big fan in action of any sort of realism, and unless it is something that is over the top on purpose.
I would say these are. It's weird because they're like, it's like John Wick. It's like it's a hyper stylized, realistic world. I do think the plot of the first one is very simple. You know, it's more so used to just have these characters be in the situation for these fight scenes to happen. Second one, I genuinely think, was it Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park scored the first one for the US release, which I actually think he did a good job.
I adore Linkin Park, so that's just a selling point.
The Raid 2 story is if you've watched any like Kenji Fukasaku or any like Troy Hark or Johnny Toe films, where, you know, especially the Kenji Fukasaku stuff, where it's like all mafia based, you know, like organized crime based, and it's a lot of characters interwoven together. That's the Raid 2. And it's a little convoluted, but if you're used to that style of storytelling, you're gonna love it because it's rival mafia groups, and there's it's actually really good. But for me, a good action movie, you have to have a good one. You have to have a good 1v1 fight. I think there's some movies that do a really good 2v1 fight.
Yep.
A group fight where, you know, you're fighting a lot of people all at once. And then a car chase. I think car chases, And the Raid 1 has, I think, one of the best like group of people fighting someone all at once. You know how a lot of movies, a lot of people just stand still while they're in this movie, they get around that by having them fight in a hallway. So there's a
no
reason
room.
why not everybody's attacking all at once, but people do attack more than once, and our hero does get hit. And there's a couple scenes where you're like, oh, that should have hurt more, but he's got, remember, he's a
Right.
police, he's got body armor on. It's got the single best 2v1 fight in any movie ever, and they fucking sell it. Like, they sell that this guy could not be taken down, and he's like 4'11". Like, it's incredible.
Interesting.
And then the sequel has the one. I think people, when people talk about the Raid, they're gonna look at the fist fights. The fucking car chase in that movie is incredible, and there's a really, keep your eye out. There's a really cool way that they film it. They go from one car to the other, and the way they do it is they actually have somebody in there as the seat, and they hand the camera to him. So it's really well done. And then they got the single best 1v1 fight ever filmed. And it's so good. But I'm excited. We're going to talk about it in depth next week. I'm excited because I get an excuse to watch them again. Woo! I'm not just watching them to watch them. I fucking love these movies. And I'm excited to see what you say, because you also like horror movies, and
Oh yeah.
the first one is basically a horror movie. Like, it could just be a zombie movie, really.
And from what I hear, it basically is just like the movie Mayhem. Have you seen that with Stephen Yeun? So it is literally a virus outbreak movie that's essentially a zombie movie for a guy that hates his job. And he and what is her name? Samara Weaving. They are defending their way through a building of people that are just going insane. And they have to go from the bottom floor to the top and escape.
Well, I'm going to watch that tonight. That sounds fucking awesome.
It is incredible.
Well, let's go and wrap it up. Thanks for everyone for watching. 2 hours. We love you guys. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for hanging out.
Go subscribe to Disconnected. Go follow him on all his socials. He's a lot better than Don of the Discs. So go follow him on Facebook. Fuck Don of the Discs. Peace out, guys.